The Keth-Mori reconnaissance fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with anticipation. Commander Velnash extended his primary sensory apparatus toward the third planet, the memories of his ancestors flowing through his genetic consciousness like ancient rivers. Initiating deep scan of the primitive world, announced his science officer, Zixara, her tentacles dancing across the organic control surfaces. Beginning atmospheric analysis, and, wait. The pause stretched uncomfortably long. Commander Velnash had lived for 3,000 cycles, had witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations, but he had never heard that particular tone of confusion in his science officer's voice. "Report," he demanded, his bioluminescent patches shifting to command orange. "Sir, the atmospheric composition is wrong. Oxygen levels are precisely 21%, nitrogen 78%, with trace gases in perfect balance for optimal biological development. But according to our ancestral records, this world was a chaotic mess of volcanic gases and primitive atmospheric chaos when we last visited." Commander Velnash consulted the genetic memories inherited from his forebears. 500,000 cycles ago, the Keth-Mori had conducted routine planetary surveys throughout this spiral arm of the galaxy. Earth, or Specimen World 7742, as they had designated it, had been noted as having potential for primitive life development, possibly achieving basic tool use within a few 100,000 cycles. Perhaps the ecosystem achieved natural balance, he suggested. Run surface scans. Let's see what manner of simple creatures have evolved. The results appeared on their biodisplays moments later, causing every member of the bridge crew to simultaneously shift to alarm crimson. "Sir," Zixara whispered, "the surface structures. They're artificial. Geometric patterns extending across entire continents. But that's impossible. The maximum evolutionary development we projected was perhaps stone tools and basic fire usage. The tactical displays revealed something that violated every principle of evolutionary development the Keth-Mori understood. The planet's surface was covered in a web of structures that seemed to pulse with their own energy. Vast geometric complexes stretched between landmasses, connected by bridges that spanned entire oceans. Most disturbing of all, the structures appeared to be growing, extending themselves in real time across the planet's surface. "Magnify Sector 7, Commander Velnash ordered, his voice trembling despite his attempts at composure. The image resolution increased, revealing details that made the crew's bioluminescence flicker with terror. The structures weren't just buildings, they were alive. Organic and mechanical elements blended seamlessly, creating architectures that breathed, that adapted, that seemed to watch the observers with invisible eyes. "Energy readings?" he asked weakly. "Sir, the power output from this single planet exceeds the total energy production of our entire civilization. The technology appears to be based on controlled manipulation of quantum vacuum energy. That level of advancement should take millions of cycles to achieve." Navigation Officer Krulthos spoke up from his station, his usually steady voice cracking. "Sir, we're detecting movement in the asteroid belt. Large-scale construction projects. They're building something massive out there." The long-range sensors painted a picture that defied rational explanation. Humanity, if these creatures were indeed descended from the primitive ape descendants they had catalogued, had not only achieved spaceflight, but had begun reshaping their entire star system. Asteroid mining operations on a scale that suggested casual manipulation of planetary masses. Orbital structures that dwarfed anything in Keth-Mori engineering archives. "Biological scan of the surface dwellers," Commander Velnash ordered, though part of him no longer wanted to know the answer. When the results appeared, Zixara's tentacles went completely still. "Sir, the organisms. They're not entirely biological anymore. The scans show integrated cybernetic systems, but not crude mechanical implants. The technology appears to be grown rather than built, integrated at the cellular level. They've achieved biological-technological symbiosis. How many of them? 12 billion surface dwellers, sir. But that's not the worst part. Commander Nash felt his ancient heart skip several beats. There's more? They're not confined to the surface. We're detecting population centers throughout the solar system. Orbital habitats, lunar colonies, installations on every major planetary body. Sir, they've achieved full solar system colonization in the time span we expected them to discover agriculture. The implications crashed over the bridge crew like a psychic tsunami. Not only had humanity evolved far beyond their projections, they had done so at an impossible rate. The evolutionary timeline suggested adaptive capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission. From where? Everywhere. The entire star system is transmitting to us simultaneously. They know we're here. The transmission began as mathematical sequences, primes, physics constants, basic geometric proofs, standard first contact protocols. But within seconds, the communication shifted to something that made every Kethmori's bioluminescence dim with primal fear. The aliens were speaking perfect Kethmori. Greetings, descendants of the ancient surveyors, the voice said in their own language, with precise grammatical structures that hadn't been used for millennia. We have been expecting your return. Commander Nash found his voice after several moments of stunned silence. You know our language. We know many things. Your ancestors left behind genetic samples during their last visit. We found them quite educational. We've been waiting for you to return ever since. The science displays suddenly erupted with new data. Ships were emerging from what appeared to be empty space throughout the system. Vessels that use cloaking technology the Kethmori hadn't even theorized. Hundreds of them, each one radiating power signatures that exceeded their most advanced warships. We studied your genetic patterns, the human voice continued with unsettling calm. We learned your history, your technology, your psychology. We've had 500,000 years to prepare for this moment. Prepare for what? Commander Nash asked, though his ancestral memories already supplied the terrifying answer. For you to return and attempt to manage our development, as your species has done with thousands of others across the galaxy. We've observed your methods. We know what you do to civilizations that evolve beyond your control. The human ships began moving, not toward the Kethmori fleet, but surrounding them with casual efficiency that spoke of absolute technological superiority. You see, Commander Nash, yes, we know your name and your mission parameters. Humanity learned something during our evolution that your species never did. We learned to remember. Every slight, every manipulation, every species your people have guided into extinction when they became inconvenient. The commander's final transmission to the Kethmori homeworld was brief and carried only one message: do not come to Sol. Warn all other species. Humanity remembers, and they have been waiting for us. The last thing the reconnaissance fleet saw, before their ships were efficiently dismantled for study, was Earth itself, not the primitive world their ancestors had catalogued, but a planet covered in structures that pulsed with intelligence, watching the galaxy with the patient attention of apex predators who had learned to plan across geological timescales. The age of Kethmori galactic management had ended. The age of human expansion was about to begin.